Okay. Welcome, everyone. My name is Brenda Nogales. I work for Highest Pennsylvania, a nonprofit organization that offers legal immigration services and other supports for immigrants and refugees in our region. The presentation today has been prepared in collaboration with Philadelphia Legal Assistance and the Pennsylvania Immigrant Resource Center. You will be hearing more about those organizations later on during the presentation, learn about the work that they're doing and how you can access those services. Before we begin the presentation, we're gonna start with introducing your panelists today. We're gonna begin with Janelle. If you would like to go first, please.
Sure. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Janelle Ellis. I work at Highest Pennsylvania as well, and it's a pleasure to be here with you all today.
Elizabeth, would you like to go next?
Yes. So my name is Elizabeth Miller. I am the Development Director with the Pennsylvania Immigration Resource Center. We are a nonprofit not affiliated with the government, and we provide free legal services. So glad that you all are joining us on these really, really important topics.
Marianne.
Hi, everyone. Thanks also for joining us on spending your afternoon with us today. My name is Marianne. I'm an Equal Justice Works Fellow Attorney within Philadelphia Legal Assistance's Family Law Unit, and I specialize in retaliatory litigation regarding domestic violence and sexual abuse.
Thank you so much to all of you for joining in during this presentation, and hopefully all the information and resources that we're going to be providing to you will help you and your family prepare in the likelihood that you might have an encounter with ICE. Before we begin, I just want to let you know that this presentation has been prepared for educational purposes only. None of the information that's going to be provided throughout the presentation should constitute legal advice. We ask you to contact an immigration attorney or to speak with a family attorney about the specifics of your case. Every case, every situation is different, and it's important for you to be able to speak with an attorney before taking any steps that are going to be shared during this presentation today. If you have any questions, we'll have a section at the end of the presentation where we'll try to answer most of the questions that are posted, if not all of that, if we have time. Please write down your questions in the Q&A box. And again, we'll do our best to answer all of your questions and concerns. With that, we're going to start with our presentation.
So before we get into the nitty-gritty of all of the family preparedness, it is important to know that as immigrants in the United States, you have rights under the Constitution. Of course, you have the right to remain silent when questioned by immigration officials. You have the right to refuse to sign any documentation. And should you be detained by ICE, it is important to know that you have the right to consult an attorney. However, the government is not required to provide you an attorney for free, so you must seek legal representation on your own. You also have the right to privacy, meaning you have the right to withhold consent for any search of your person or your personal belongings. On the slide, you'll see some cards here that you can use should you find yourself in an encounter with ICE. And for more multilingual information or Know Your Rights information, Highest PA has a website on more information, and the QR code is right next to it. And you can also visit the wehaverights.us website for more Know Your Rights videos. And Clinic also has some very useful resources as well. The website is also listed on the slide. Next slide, please. It is important to know what your legal options are as well. Please speak with an immigration attorney about your case because every case is different, and a legal consultation will help you understand your legal options under immigration law because it is so complex. It would also help you understand the risks and benefits of each option so that you can make an informed decision for not only yourself, but for your family as well. For any Pennsylvania residents, you can find legal service organizations for immigrants listed at the website here. ISPA has a webpage that will show you a complete list of organizations that might be able to assist you with your immigration case. And should you be detained by ICE, you have Pennsylvania Immigrant Family Unity Project, also known as PIFUP, that might be able to help you obtain free legal representation. And the number here for the hotline is listed below, as well as their email address. And for easier access, you can also use the QR code that is on the slide. Next slide, please. In this time, it is very important to be aware of notarios. These are individuals that are not attorneys and they are not qualified to provide legal advice or immigration services. In some cases, notarios can be members of their community who might speak your language. But because immigration law is so complex, it is essential to obtain legal information and assistance from qualified, trusted resources such as attorneys or accredited representatives. Immigration law is constantly changing, so it is important to work with individuals who are qualified and know the ins and outs of immigration law. To watch more videos, you can access them using the website listed or use the QR codes that are listed to watch more videos in various languages: English, Spanish, Haitian Creole, and more. It is also important to organize important documents as a family, especially if you are detained. It might take some time for your family or lawyer to contact an immigration authority, but during this time, it's very important and very crucial for you to have the right documents ready. So it'll make a big difference in obtaining legal service. You gather all the right important documents, you make copies, keep them in a safe place, keep them somewhere that's easily accessible for every member of the family, and share that with each other. Let them know that this is where you're keeping the documents for immigration related, and that way, should you find yourself in a encounter with ICE or immigration officials, they're readily available. Thank you. Some important information that your lawyer might need in order to represent you if you're detained. We start with, of course, your alien registration number, also known as your A number. It's important to know the dates and locations of your entry into the United States. These are some of the first questions that attorneys and accredited representatives will ask you. So it's important to have those. Additionally, there's information regarding border detentions or prior deportation orders, any copies of your I-94 arrival records if you have them available, visa stamps if you have those, documentation that was issued to you upon border entry, parole documents, work permits, green cards, things of that nature. It is also important to have any copies of applications that were submitted to the government. For example, asylum, TPS, parole, a U visa, T visa, things of that nature. It's also important to keep any record of criminal arrests and court dispositions or police reports should you find yourself having any sort of criminal history here in the United States. It is also important to have a list of emergency contacts. This will allow for helping to quickly locate any family members, caregivers, or trusted individuals should you find yourself in an encounter with ICE, especially if you have young children and you need to be able to get in contact with someone that can assist you with caring for your family members. It also helps with communicating with schools, doctors, attorneys, especially during these emergencies. It facilitates access to important information, such as any type of medication, allergies, medical diagnoses, and special needs. It should be kept up to date as best as possible, and please share it with designated caregivers and other trusted family members. This should also be a list that is easily accessible to each member of the family should you find yourself again in an ICE encounter or find yourself detained. Please if you're interested in downloading this emergency contact list, please visit the website here that is listed and or use the QR code to have that readily available to you. Next slide, please.
Thank you, Janelle. Marianne, you're going to be speaking to us about how to put together a plan to protect our children.
So as I said in the beginning, although I focus on survivors, this is for anyone who is trying to make plans. If you or another parent might be facing deportation and want to think of where your child or how you want to acclimate your child in these situations and the legal and non-legal ways to do so. Okay, so why is family preparedness important? So a family preparedness plan won't eliminate the risk of deportation, but it helps you and your family access information and have tools ready to better protect one another. This includes a spouse, an aunt, the children, everyone involved in that family unit that's supporting yourself and the kids. A family preparedness plan should help you create a plan for your children, create a plan for your finances, organize your personal information and immigration documents, and create an emergency contact list, as Janelle was just stating prior. So planning for your children, it's crucial to choose a trusted caregiver and discuss your plan with them if this is something you may be facing or considering, or just in general nervous for. Select a responsible adult who knows your children and is willing to care for them if necessary in your absence. Ideally, choose someone who lives near your home or your children's school to mitigate the stability for them. Can be available on short notice. Ideally, has legal immigration status. And if the person chosen to care for your children is also at a risk of deportation, identify at least one backup caregiver in their alternative as well. So what options are available if parents are detained or deported? There aren't any simple answers or easy ways to designate a temporary guardian or caregiver for a minor. Pennsylvania custody law does not use the term guardian in child custody. Regulations refer to someone who has physical or legal custody, which means they've gone through the legal process in child custody court. The court does not allow hypothetical custody order for a hypothetical situation. So an order can't be entered for a future possibility that hasn't happened. So it's important to speak with an attorney for advice regarding your specific situation. And what options are available if parents are detained or deported? So custody proceedings in family court involving parents and a caregiver is an option. Notarized custody agreements between parents accompanied by family court custody proceedings. Each of these bullets we're going to go into more in depth in the next few slides, but this is an overview. Notarized caregiver authorization signed by the parents and the caregiver. And it's always best to plan ahead and have the important documents ready containing the children's information in a safe designated spot where everyone who's involved in the situation is aware. So the parents, the caregiver know where this specific place is. And on the right, there's a photo of a guide that Philadelphia Legal Assistance has created for people to use for their specific situation. So if you're facing these options and you're thinking about family court, what kind of remedies does family court have? Sorry, I'm reading. There was a message in the chat. Okay. So someone in the chat wrote a message about regarding referrals for notaries and standby guardianship. Um, so for family court options, parents may submit a custody complaint and a custody agreement between the parents and the caregiver, and this would be signed and notarized. So what this would be is one of the parents will file an original custody complaint, starting a custody action in family court, and then they would, after that, submit the custody agreement that they've reached. And they would be signed by both parties and notarized that both parties signed it. If the parents are detained, a caregiver may submit an emergency custody petition to the court after taking the child into their care. And this can come in terms of they need to have immediately enroll them in school or legal doctors, health concerns, anything like that. They're able to file an emergency petition stating why they need custody right away. Once again, always though, consult a family law attorney regarding your specific case. This is just general information. And at the bottom, we have a QR code that for more information on custody and planning options for immigrant families, you can visit this link or click the QR code. And to also access the family court custody petitions, such as the original complaint to start an action, there's the website on the screen as well. Out-of-court custody options. So what does a caregiver authorization signed by the parents and caregiver before a notary do? So it does not alter the parent's custodial rights. So each parent has a right to parent their child, and without a custody order or an order by the state, any type of court order, that's not changed in any way. However, if there is a notary sign, an authorization sign, other institutions such as like doctors, schools, we'll get into like local options, but they might treat the caregiver as someone authorized to make decisions for the child. So that notary, that sign authorization can be used to assist the child in further situations, but it's not a legal document. So that authorization is not a court order, but it can serve as evidence that the parents intended for the caregiver to have custody. So the caregiver may have the authority to make decisions for the children in an emergency without obtaining a court-ordered custody arrangement. But like I said, this authorization might not be accepted by a court as a formal legal document. And a signed authorization might not be accepted by the child's school or medical provider for registration purposes. However, a signed authorization could potentially be used against a parent's wishes if the third-party caregiver seeks to obtain custody of the children against the parent's wishes. So say this authorization happens, everyone signs and agrees on it, but the parents change their mind, no longer trust that individual. This could possibly make them face legal ramifications later if this third party wants to be involved in custody. They could use this document as proof that, at one point the parents did trust them or they were going to act as a parent for the child.
Yes. And Marianne, if I could add a couple of things. This is the same caregiver authorization form that many immigrant families are now preparing in the likelihood of possibly having an encounter with ICE, being detained or deported from the United States. So through this form, they are authorizing someone else. It could be another family member or someone that they trust with the care of their children. So this is the actual caregiver authorization form that we're discussing during the presentation, correct?
Yes. So that's why it's incredibly important that this is someone you trust. Could be the neighbor that you already might watch the children for you sometimes, or a trusted adult that they also know the documents and those things in case something happens. They'll be able to use this to help continue your children's doctor's appointments if they have special medical needs. But if they might face difficulty if they need to enroll a child somewhere all new, they might need to do the legal custody, or they can use this for legal custody. So this could be helpful for them later if we don't do legal custody, showing that this was the parent's intent and I'm here fulfilling their intent. And I need some type of custody to enroll the children in school or do medical decisions. But the document on its own isn't a legal custody order, but something of proof that, this is the trusted person in this situation.
And it also, this can be helpful to prepare your family and to ensure that your children are protected and cared for. But also it could be used against you by ICE, for example, right? If you are detained by ICE and ICE knows that you have a plan, prepare for the care of your children, they might hold you in detention versus you saying, I am the only person taking care of my children. I don't have anyone available to care for my children, to pick them up from school today. It could potentially help you escape detention. But this is the reason why we encourage everyone to speak with your immigration attorney and also with a family attorney. Every situation is different, and understanding your options fully can help you make decisions that can really help your family in situations like this.
Next slide, please. So these are the advantages and disadvantages of the out-of-court options. So a non-parent family care member or a caregiver, so how I mentioned the neighbor or another trusted individual, would likely have the authority to make emergency decisions on a temporary basis without needing to obtain formal custody or go through a court process. And it could be used as proof of the parent's will if the carer decides to go to court at a later date, how I was previously describing. The disadvantages are it may not be accepted in all instances or jurisdictions. It's not judicially enforceable. So, as I mentioned, this document could be evidence, but it isn't the ultimate court, court stamp officiated by the court decision. So a judge will not enforce this document on its own. It can also be used against the parent later if the caregiver wishes to seek custody against the parent's will. And it can grant the caregiver in loco parentis. This is just a Latin term stating that in place of a parent. That's a standing issue, meaning this person may be able to file for custody, and that can be used as evidence for that. And this could be disadvantageous because it could be if that relationship has broken down, it could be against the will of a parent. Doesn't mean they'll get granted a custody order, but they may be able to file for custody, and in court, the case will decide after that. But we still need to let you know of this possibility. Okay, so considerations for parents with different immigration statuses. Immigration status alone does not necessarily prevent a parent from pursuing custody proceedings or obtaining a custody order. Your immigration status, someone's immigration status, does not make them alone a better or worse parent than anyone else. And that is not something someone should be afraid of, that being brought up. Regardless of your status, you could be a phenomenal parent. That doesn't change the love and care that you provide your child. So people shouldn't have that be what's holding them back from filing if that's what they feel is right in their situation. However, if you are in the situation that you're worried about being detained or deported, then it is advisable to have a plan in place for that. And that is something that may be brought up in custody court because it can place a risk to the stability of the child. Other considerations to consider is the other parent and paternity. When filing for custody, all parents must be involved and the paternity of those parents is considered. So if a father is not on the birth certificate, but they are involved, or they're on the birth certificate and not necessarily involved, they still need to be included in the custody case because they have those parent rights still. Um, International travel should be considered. So if the children don't have passports, if they need passports, if the caregiver wants to travel with the child to another location or reunite with the family and may need a passport, an authorization for the caregiver to travel with the children. So planning ahead for those types of things. If the children don't have a passport, they may need, and there is in contact with the other parent, they may need to be a custody order to obtain that passport without the other parent's consent, if that is a situation someone's in. And then moreover, considering medical and educational decisions. What are the specific wishes for your child? Does your child have specific medications, diagnoses that will need to be taken care of in your absence? So public benefits, we're going to move on to a bit. A person caring for a child can obtain public benefits for that child, including TANF, people sometimes call it welfare, and food stamps without needing a custody order. And so you can find more information about public benefits at this link from Community Legal Services in Philadelphia. It's on their website as well. But please note that DHS, Department of Human Services, will eventually initiate a process to seek child support from the parents if the caregiver receives cash assistance. So for the state, they ultimately feel that it's the parent's responsibility to provide for the child. And if they're providing a subsidy, giving money to a third party, they may seek support from the parents because of that. There is, however, something called a good cause exception to the cooperation requirement for parents or caregivers receiving TANF who do not wish to seek child support from the other parent due to fear of harm caused by domestic violence. And that can be filled out as well. Slide, please. So we're going to discuss some of the school forms and considerations. So please contact your children's school to ensure that their designated caregiver is authorized to act on your behalf in the event that you are detained or deported. Include the person chosen to care for your child on a list of emergency contacts and individualized authorizations to pick them up from school. Families in Philadelphia, specifically within Philadelphia School District, can fill out a form titled Delegation of Parental Responsibility on behalf of a parent legal guardian. Each school district has its own policies and forms regarding the authorization of a caregiver. However, in Philadelphia, they have this specific form that you can access at the QR code there to fill that out and give it to your respective school in the school district to further plan for this situation. Now going into medical treatment, so authorization of consent for the medical treatment of a minor. If a parent is unavailable, healthcare providers may require parental consent or a court order before treating the minor. Some providers may accept a caregiver authorization, but it is not guaranteed. So especially please, if this is something you're nervous of, or if you have an authorization, this might be something to speak with your children's pediatrician with, or give them a copy beforehand, let them know to prepare for the situation if this is something that there are concerns for. To avoid delays in care, it is strongly recommended that consent for medical treatment of a minor form is completed. So this can be, for example, I was stating if maybe the child has diabetes or something that needs like imminent prescriptions, medicine, or various treatments. If if you're nervous about a gap in the treatment, filling out this form ahead of time could assist in preventing a gap or mitigating how long that would be. So keep copies of this form with the person caring for the minor, and if possible, provide a copy to the child's doctor. This could also be kept in the area where you choose to keep the like passport or health records, documents, things like that, all centralized as well. Um, but as stated, although there's no guarantee that the medical consent form will be accepted in every situation, having a clear notarized consent form can be beneficial in an emergency, just in case. So next is applying for a passport. If your children are US citizens, you can apply for a passport in case they need to travel outside the country. Different situations may require specific forms and documentations. So how I was mentioning a bit, both parents might have to be present at the passport appointment. Some situations only one parent may be present or neither parent present. On the passport website, it has the required forms for the different situations. If there needs to be a custody order proving that, if a parent can be a form submitted so that only one parent needs to be present, that can be found on the website. If your child is not a US citizen, then contact your country's consulate to find out how to apply or renew a passport. You can also ask about any other additional documents needed for travel identification regarding your respective situation from the home country's consulate. Traveling abroad with a minor. Before planning any international travel for your children, it's important to be aware of the requirements of both the United States and the destination country. So if there's a visa requirement or health requirements such as different vaccines, it's important to be aware of that in consideration of this. Every minor, including infants, must have their own passport issued by the country of which they are a citizen to travel abroad. Traveling with one parent, if a minor is accompanied by only one parent, it's recommended to carry a written notarized authorization form from the other parent approving that travel. Travel without either parent, if a minor is traveling with a relative, a caregiver, or other adult, both parents must provide written notarized permission authorizing the trip. And in cases where a parent has sole custody, if one parent has sole legal custody, meaning they have all the decision-making power regarding that child, additional documentation such as the custody order stating that they have legal custody may be required. That's something as well that can be seen with the passport appointment and obtaining a passport. In some cases, written permission from the other parent may not be necessary, but proof of that legal custody I mentioned must be carried. And here's an example going over a travel authorization letter. A travel authorization letter is a crucial document that helps demonstrate that a minor has permission to travel. This document must be signed by the parents or legal guardians, be notarized, and include travel details, specifically destinations, the dates, and the accompanying adult. And it must also include the parent's contact information for emergencies. Having this document ready can help avoid delays, questioning, or denial of boarding, which could mean they miss their flight and the process restarts from there. To access a sample consent to travel domestic international document, you can visit HIA's website, and that's also in the QR code there.
Thank you, Marianne. That was very helpful information. And our advice to parents is to try to prepare as much as you can, because when there is an emergency, it takes time to be able to get all the information and documentation that Marianne described during her presentation. And also, if someone is detained, if one of the parents is detained and you need signatures for children to be able to access medical care or for school or traveling, it can take several weeks before you can get documents signed and notarized when someone is in detention. So this is why we're urging families to try to prepare as much possible before there is a crisis, and then it's much more difficult to be able to get what you need to be able to help the person that's detained and to ensure that your children are protected and cared for in the likelihood that you are detained. Now we're going to be talking about how to create a plan for your finances, and Elizabeth is going to be presenting.
Thank you, and thank you all for sticking with us. This is so much information, and I know that it can be overwhelming. One thing that we consistently see is that no plan is going to be the same. Each is going to be individualized to your own needs. So as I go through some of this information, please know some of it might not apply. Some of it might look different. One of the things that is key throughout, and you heard it from Janelle, you heard it from Marianne, and that is choosing somebody who's a trusted person and having a backup to that trusted person. The same is going to apply to planning for your finances in the event that you are detained by ICE. So what does that even mean? What does that even look like if you need to make a plan for your finances in the event that you are not there? It is important to leave clear instructions so that a loved or trusted person will know what to do with your accounts. That might mean sharing a password, right? That might mean having all of the important documents together in one place, so that somebody, maybe multiple people, know where they are. Again, this should be somebody who you trust, who could access your finances to do the things that you might need to do. That might mean help preventing a missed payment on a rental. It might mean make sure that your family is provided for if you are detained. One thing that we consistently see is that maybe one person in the household knows everything about where their finances are and how to access them. Having those discussions now about where that information is, how to access it, keeping it organized is one thing that you can do with that trusted person. Could be a member of your family. It could be also a friend outside of your family who can, in the event that you're not there, they can pay for that medical bill. They can pay the lease. They can take care of some things for you that you would not be able to do if you were in detention as easily. Next slide. So we talk about organizing all of your information. One thing that's very important to do is think about sort of the financial category as its own thing, because there's so much within it, right? So you have bank accounts. What's the account information? How would somebody go and access your bank if they needed to get to your money? What about your debit cards, your credit cards? How many do you have? Who are they listed from? What banks are they from? Your insurance policies. That could be property insurance. That could be other types of insurance, medical insurance. It could be your house insurance or rental insurance, tax records, housing documents. We try to think of this as if you are asking somebody to step in your role, almost like if you've ever had a babysitter, right? I know when my child was young and I was having a babysitter for the first time, the amount of instructions that I provided for that person was way more than they needed, but I wanted them to be able to step in and know exactly the timeline, where things were, who to call. We want to do the same thing here. If somebody was stepping into this, not knowing anything, where would they find your keys to your car? And where would they find the title for your car and your registration? So right here we have listed, and it's not an exhaustive list. There's way more that we could add, but it depends on your situation. These are the biggest ones that we see: lease agreement, rent receipts. You want to keep copies in a secure place. So not just have the originals, have copies, and making sure people know where they are. So not just you have that conversation with somebody else and say, we have all of our financial information you're going to find in this location, and you have access to it, and this is how you can access it. Next slide. One thing that is really important to know is that in the event that you are in an encounter with ICE and that you are detained by ICE, meaning that you are sent to ICE custody, you're in a detention center, that does not mean you lose your rights as a tenant. You still have rights. This is important to know. We have heard in the community that this is not always honored. And so it's very, very important for our community members to know that just because you're detained, that does not mean that you are automatically evicted. Landlords must legally go through the eviction process, and that would be non-payment and notices after that received. So there's a sort of a timeline for that eviction that would have to occur. Before that, and if you're up to date on your payments, you have rights. So they can't simply change the locks, shut off your utilities, discard your belongings, force your family to leave. That should not be a thing. However, because the whole theme of this presentation is to just shore up your protections against those things, it could be really important for you if you have other household members who are adults in the place where you live, add them to the lease. If they're not already on, add them. Because if you're in detention and unable to pay, and they're trying to issue notices and things like that, that new person on the lease will also be receiving that information and also have that responsibility. Again, if the rent is not paid, the landlord must still follow that timeline and provide all the required notices, and follow Pennsylvania eviction procedures law. They must follow Pennsylvania law before they can evict you. Okay, so even though you are detained, know that that place is still yours until you're unable to make those payments, and the Pennsylvania laws have been followed for those eviction notices. During that time, you might have another household member who is able to make those payments for you. You might have people who are just able to help, at least maybe even get your property out of the location, if that is something that you would be worried about. So consider this as you're thinking about your housing and what you would want to happen with your belongings, and how you would want it handled in the event that you are in detention and you have a family, or maybe it is just you living in an apartment or a house. What would you want to happen to that, and how could you continue to make payments? And if not, what would be your plan B? Next slide. So in addition to that, there are and some of these things I already said before, but you want to take additional steps to think about how can we protect our home and how can we protect our vehicle and other property. It's, again, I keep saying it, but choose somebody you trust, right? Choose somebody who you know that can keep information organized and know where to access it, who might be able to keep your keys. That has been something that has come up for us again and again. So we've had somebody who, was detained, and the landlord said that they were going to get rid of their property. Because a friend had keys, they were able to go and get all of that property out of that household. And that property was that person's livelihood. They were a DJ. So all of their equipment was within the home. So luckily they had a friend who was able to get all of that information, all of that property out of there for them. So things like keys, if you only have one key, consider making a copy or asking for a copy, getting a copy and giving that to the trusted person, knowing that maybe you will have it on you if you're detained. Have these conversations with that trusted person, but also your family members. This is not an easy conversation. None of these are easy conversations, but having those conversations of, if this happens, then this is what we would want to see, can reduce confusion when in the event that something does happen, and that we don't want anybody to be homeless out on the streets, right? We want to do our best to make sure that you can still, your family and your loved ones can still remain within the home. With your vehicles, it's really important, if you can, keep that registration, insurance, keep all of that current. As you're, if you're on the road and cop sees, right, that your registration is expired, more likelihood that you'd get pulled over, or if you're pulled over and they notice it, right? So you want to keep that as current as possible. Keep them in a trusted place. But just like we said with the apartment, know where the keys are kept. Sometimes we've seen people who are detained and the cars are left in the street. And eventually, if they're not claimed, they are taken, and it's very, very hard to get them back. If you have a loved one or a trusted person that has a copy of those keys or has another set of keys, they can go pick up the car for you. And at least your family then can have it, or a trusted person can have it. Making sure people know where all of these documents are stored. And then finally, ICE generally will allow a family member to pick up the vehicle if you have valid proof of ownership, which again, this is why it's so important to collect and organize all of these documents, because in that moment of panic, in that moment of need, thinking about where did they keep this document, that's very overwhelming. Keeping that in a safe location so that you can produce that to ICE and say, yes, I'm here to pick up this vehicle. Just remember that your personal belongings remain your property while you were detained. That is something that we will continually say to our community members. It's also something to think about, because what do you want to keep on you when you're out and about? And what do you want to have safe somewhere? And that's just a consideration that's different for everybody. But your property is still your property. If you have somebody who you trust to take care of it, or to watch over it, or to move it for you, what if you are in detention, or in removal proceedings, then that really goes a long way to maintaining all of your access. Next slide. So this has happened, and this continually happens in our community across the country, that people are unexpectedly detained, right? And families still need to access the money because they need to pay for rent, they need to pay for childcare, health expenses, food. So if you think about just what your family or your loved ones need on the day-to-day, what you pay for, think about that and answer some of these questions for yourself. Who knows what your bank accounts are? Who could ensure that your bills are paid? One thing that we sometimes talk about is consider getting a financial power of attorney. Financial power of attorney is not an attorney. It is actually somebody who you would trust, who you could designate to manage financial matters on your behalf. That could be bank accounts, paying bills, signing documents, managing property. It doesn't transfer ownership at all. It's just saying that this person is authorized to make financial decisions on your behalf according to your wishes. And so that is something that you can do. It's helpful to have an attorney review that with you. You can have that notarized and have somebody in place. So in the event that you are detained, that somebody else could manage that with a financial power of attorney. Having that in advance, again, just reduces confusion and creates more stability for your family. Next slide. this goes into a little bit of more detail about what a financial power of attorney is. This is something that you can see a sample document at the link on the bottom of the right page there. I would urge you to look at that and read through it. See what is actually necessary, and have in mind, if possible, and knowing this is not always possible, but if you can, think of somebody who you could designate as your financial power of attorney. And you can grant them different powers. So it's not one size fits all, right? Just as these family preparedness plans are different for everyone, so will be the access that you would want them to have. And what would that look like for you? What would you want somebody to do if you were unable to? So take a look at that if you have a chance and read through it, and that can give you a better idea if you think this is something that you would benefit from. Next slide. So there are resources for people who are detained by ICE in Pennsylvania. One very common question is, where do I find them? My loved one has been detained by ICE. I don't know where they are. We have here a QR code which takes you to the ICE locator, this online detainee locator system. And if you have certain pieces of information, you will be able to see where that person is being held. It does require certain pieces such as the alien registration or number, or the A number. That's a 9-digit number that you'll see, their country of birth, or by using their biographical information. So, date of birth, country of origin, things of that nature. There's actually even a step-by-step instruction video of how to find this information and how to go through this system. And on the page, you can actually change it to the language that you prefer, which makes it even easier. I would say, too, if you have any questions, you could give one of our organizations a call, and we would be happy to walk you through it so that you are able to find out where a loved one is being held. There is also at the bottom QR code, there's additional information on what to do if your loved one is detained. The biggest question that we receive is, I don't know where they are. And so that is information that is available to you online, updated daily, should be, not always current, but that is something that it's a website that you should definitely favorite, track, put somewhere important if you need it later. Next slide. In addition to that, what else can you do if somebody that you know or love is detained? You can actually contact your member of Congress and urge them to visit the detention centers and ask to speak with somebody who's detained, your loved one. Here locally, most of the people on this call may know there is the Moshannon Valley Processing Center, MVPC. That is the largest detention center in the Northeast, with about 1,900 bed capacity. So for many people who are detained in Pennsylvania, that is where they'll be detained, at least at the outset, at least at first. If you contact a congressperson, they may be able to go. It's right here in Pennsylvania. They might be able to go and talk to your loved ones. They might, in certain circumstances, may also be able to raise certain issues to a higher level to seek their release or talk about the injustice of the loved one being detained. Finally, you can speak to somebody in the congressional office that you use a form so that they can talk to somebody who's detained by ICE. There's more information at that link on the bottom, and there's a privacy waiver that you'll see right there on the right, and that would be for somebody who is detained to fill out, and that would mean that they, are signing, away their privacy rights just for this specific instance, and that's to tell their story, to get assistance from the congressional or the congressman or woman. Next slide. There are many different rapid response networks throughout the state, I'm happy to say. They're all a little bit different, but they all have the common theme of wanting to assist individuals who have encountered ICE. So many of them are trained, they're advocates, they're allies, and some assist during and after immigration and ICE enforcement action. So there could be a raid, there could be a pickup and detention, and a lot of times some of these rapid response networks will go out into the community. They will take observations. They will contact family members. They will make sure that to route or refer people to legal resources for you. And then there's also a lot of phone numbers to call for these groups across the state, depending where you are. And that could be for emergencies, saying, hey, my brother was just detained. He's got a wife at home, and they have 3 children, and 2 of them are in formula. I do not know how they're going to pay for formula. Can you help? There's multiple organizations across the state who are doing work just for those types of purposes, to route you to resources, to make sure you can find the person who's detained, to get you information on how you can get formula, to refer somebody to legal care, housing, all things of that nature, transportation. So they're all very different, but they all have resources that could be very, very important for you to know. So if you go to that QR code or that link at the bottom, you can find more information about which one might be in your area. Next slide. All right. I'm going to do this really fast because I'm looking at the time. But 5 things parents should know about their rights. You do have rights to make decisions about the care and custody of your children at the time of your detention. And you have the right to remain close to your children and maintain contact with them while you're detained. Remember that. At most detention centers, you can ask for help making plans for your children. Usually there's a caseworker assigned. So you can ask for a caseworker, and they can help you with this. You can participate in your child's welfare while detained by ICE. Again, talk to your caseworker. You can also decide whether your children will remain in the U.S. and make alternative care arrangements. You can do all of this even if you are in detention. So even though we're talking things to do before, know that if you are in detention, you still can do these things, and there is still ways, and you still have rights. So please remember that. Okay, next slide. This is a very difficult one, and this is something that we do not bring up lightly. We've been talking about all of these overwhelming things that are overwhelming to anyone. So talking to children about some of these issues, it can seem almost impossible, but it absolutely is important. They can already sense stress, right? And having a plan, just knowing what's involved in that plan may alleviate some of the stress, and just knowing that they're a part of this and they have some sense of the what ifs and then the plan A and plan B. There are many resources online for how to talk to your kids about this. This is going to look different for everyone, but we do know that teaching your children how to, look for the emergency contact if they can't find you, or just so they have ownership too, and they have agency and the ability to look out for themselves and to participate as a family in whatever plan that you've created, and having those conversations. Very, very difficult, but so important. Next slide.
Hey, Thank you so much, Elizabeth, for all that important information on how to make a plan for our finances and most importantly, how to talk to our children about what's going on and how to reassure them that you have a plan to ensure that they are cared and protected if an emergency takes place in the family. This is all the information we have for you. As Elizabeth mentioned earlier, it is a lot of information. It can feel very overwhelming to try to think that you have to take several steps to prepare your family. But like she said, this preparedness plan can look different for every family. Families have different needs, different circumstances, and not all the information that we provided today might apply to you. So please, you can take a look at some of the more in depth at the information we provided and some of the templates that were shared for caregiver forms, for school forms, for travel documents, and others. On the Highest Pennsylvania website, we have a family preparedness guide in English and Spanish. And within a few hours more, we'll also have a lot of information about detention resources here in Pennsylvania, how to contact, communicate with people that are detained. So look on our website to get additional information that can help you prepare for an emergency, not just related to immigration, but any type of emergency. This can be helpful for families to have ready. And before we end, we also want to share other resources that can be helpful, resources from national organizations, local and national organizations, where you can once again learn more about what to do if you are detained, what type of resources you can access within the state. So please take a look, take some time to look at these resources and learn more, because it can make a difference if there's an emergency in the future. Finally, these are the organizations that collaborated to put together this presentation. Highest Pennsylvania, once again, provides legal services and supports to immigrants and refugees here in Pennsylvania. We have free legal consultations on Wednesdays from 9:30 to 12 p.m. and on Thursdays from 2 p.m. to 4:30 p.m. As Janelle mentioned at the beginning of the presentation, one of the most important things that you can do right now is to try to figure it out. What are your legal options so you can make informed decisions regarding the types of steps that you and your family want to take. So try to contact us to get a free legal consultation. We are available Wednesdays and Thursdays, and the phone number is here on the screen. Marianne?
Hi, thanks again for joining us this afternoon. I'm with Philadelphia Legal Assistance. You can reach us at 215-981-3838. We also have an office within Philadelphia at 718 Arch Street, Suite 3N, so 3N on the elevator if you come in person. You can contact us for help with child custody, leaving an abusive home, protection from abuse matters. Again, there's a focus on abusive situations. However, we do also provide general child custody advice. So you may give us a call, and that's at 215-981-3838 on Tuesdays and Thursdays from 9:30 a.m. to 12 p.m. The hotline is currently closed until August 31st. Also want to plug in really quick, there is a free help center in Family Court that helps anyone from 12 p.m. to 3 p.m. Monday through Friday. That will also reopen on August 31st on the 11th floor. If you choose to file anything in custody, it's completely free and no one takes your information if you feel more comfortable that way. Thank you.
And again, my name is Elizabeth from the Pennsylvania Immigration Resource Center. I apologize for our long name. To get in touch with us, you can call that number 717-600-8099. So we are out of the city. We are in South Central Pennsylvania in York, but that doesn't mean all of our services are provided there. One of the main services that we provide that might be of interest to this group is that we provide Know Your Rights education for individuals in detention at Moshannon. So if you or someone that you know are in detention, our attorneys and our Department of Justice accredited representatives can go see you. And go see your loved one and explain to you what your rights are, what you can expect in immigration court, talk about what options may or may not be available to you. This is a huge help for people who may not be able to afford a legal representative, and they are going to be going to court by themselves. So we want to empower people with the knowledge so they can make the best decisions that they want for themselves and their families. So if you know of somebody who's detained, give us a call and we will see if we can go see them. We have been seeing that people are being transferred very, very, very quickly from one detention center to another. So the sooner that you call us, the sooner we can get them on our list to go see them. We also provide free legal representation to some folks who are in deportation proceedings, and as well as immigrant survivors of domestic violence, sexual assault, human trafficking, and other crime across the state. So when in doubt, give us a call. We do not want to leave you with, no, we can't do that. We will try to give you a warm referral to PLA, HIAS, others who do that work. And our staff speak English and Spanish, and then we have interpretation services available for any caller in any language. So please reach out, or if you know of someone, just pass our information along. Thank you.
Thank you. And this is all the information we had for you today. Hopefully it's helpful. And once again, you can access all of the information provided during this presentation on the HIAS Pennsylvania website. We're going to be adding additional information that can help you get in contact with people who are detained. In Pennsylvania, we have 5 detention centers. So we'll have all of that information on our website within a few hours. So please visit our website to be able to learn more about the work that we're doing and also the resources that we have available for immigrant communities in Pennsylvania. Now we have a few minutes to answer some questions, and Marianne, Elizabeth, or Janelle, if you can see some of the questions, because I'm sharing my screen, I cannot see any. Please let me know if we have any questions, and we'll do our best to answer them.
Okay, so one of the questions is, will you be sharing these links and QR codes in an email to attendees after the meeting?
We'll do our best to share that information, but again, everything is going to be posted on our website by tomorrow. So you can go visit HIAS Pennsylvania and you'll have those, the resources are already there actually in English and Spanish, but we'll be adding the recording for this presentation underneath the resources as well.
And then Susan mentioned that I'm a community advocate. Some time ago, I did a standby guardianship workshop with 2 attorneys in Kennett Square. One of the attorneys created a standby guardianship form for families who attended our workshop. We signed up and notarized about 25 families. The attorney who wrote the document is open for referrals. Please reach out to me if you want this information.
Yes, that's great to hear. I know that there are several rapid response groups across Pennsylvania. Those are mostly volunteers that are trying to provide a lot of information to immigrant communities, help with family preparedness, help with resources to legal support. So look, we provided a link for PIRC, Pennsylvania Immigrant Coalition, and they have a list of all of the rapid response groups in Pennsylvania. See if there is one in your area. If there isn't, call one that is closest to you and they might be able to provide some assistance. And maybe they have clinics where they can help you put together a family preparedness plan.
Mm-hmm. And just wanted to give one final shout out. If you're getting legal advice or help with legal forms, if and when possible, please go to an attorney or a DOJ accredited representative for immigration help or an attorney for family law help where possible, because there's a lot of people who are desperate for help, and there's a lot of people taking advantage of that. So look out for yourself, and if you have questions, call any of us, and we'll let you know, whether somebody is. We could check that. So just take care of yourself out there.
Yes, try to avoid the scams and don't work with notarios. I know working with attorneys sometimes can be expensive, but immigration law, family law, they are very complex, and you need someone who has experience, who has the knowledge, and mostly that is trusted to be able to provide advice that can actually help your family. So avoid working with notarios. We have many people that have done that, and in some cases, notarios didn't file anything, any forms, any applications, and in some cases, they file applications that were not completed or didn't have information that was accurate, and now that's firing back, and communities can be at risk because their applications were not completed in the way that they were supposed to. So avoid working with notarios. Do we have any other questions in the chat?
I don't see any.
Okay. Well, if you have any questions, you can email us. We'll do our best to send resources your way. And once again, we'll have all of this available in the Highest Pennsylvania website. Please visit us. And thank you once again to Mary Ann, Janelle, Elizabeth for participating during this presentation, for sharing all your knowledge and expertise, and for all the work that you're doing for immigrant communities here in Pennsylvania. We're very thankful for your efforts and for being part of this presentation today. And we also want to thank our attendees for being with us today. Again, we hope all this information is helpful. And please try to prepare. We know that enforcement activities are increasing, and so it's important that the community has the knowledge to be ready in case there is an emergency. Thank you once again.
Thank you.